We are live and... Hang on. There it is.
There we go.
Hey!
Hey, everybody.
Look at that. That's Adam Selzer.
Hey.
He's the man behind Mysterious Chicago. The guy who just wrote what may very well be the definitive tome about serial killer H.H. Holmes. Mm-hmm. We are outside D'Agostino's on Ogden Avenue. A classic. Look what we have here. Giant slices of pizza. These are huge.
Yeah.
It's like $4.50 for this. This is a full meal right here.
Right in my neighborhood.
Right in your neighborhood. So we're going to start with you. I'm going to make you eat and talk while on camera and microphone.
All right.
It feels good, doesn't it?
Try not to bump the microphone too much.
Worst things have happened here.
All right.
That's good pizza, Adam Selzer of Mysterious Chicago. All right, let's talk. I guess let's start with the ghost tours.
Sure.
That's how I first became aware of you.
I've been doing ghost tours in Chicago for over 10 years now.
The question you always get asked, do you believe?
Depends on what counts as a ghost, I guess. I mean, I don't really think like a translucent version of you flies out of your nose the minute you die and then like starts rattling chains around.
Okay.
You know, I've seen some pretty weird stuff. I just wouldn't necessarily swear in front of a panel of scientists that it was really a dead guy.
What weird things have you seen?
I've heard pianos play themselves. Not like a whole sonata, but, you know, more than a piano ought to be able to play itself. I've seen people you thought you saw there for a second, then all of a sudden they weren't there anymore. Stuff like that. Well, I tell you, man, the worst wasn't even on a tour. It was when I was out driving for a Lyft one time. You know, the wintertime is kind of slow for tours.
We should have done this in your Lyft.
Yeah, probably so, yeah. Because, you know, I always had like a secret dream of being a cab driver, you know. My ultimate fantasy is...
Isn't that every boy's fantasy?
Well, yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be a character in a Tom Waits song, you know.
Saying, where to, Mac?
Pretty much.
Where to, Mac?
I've literally said where to, Mac many times. But there's one time this woman got into my car in Rogers Park, and along with her got in this guy who looked like Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite.
Okay, perfect.
And, you know, I was like, where to, Mac? And, it comes up on the screen, so it doesn't really help. So it was like, I drove into an address in Ravenswood. I was just talking, you know, so you guys live in Ravenswood, you like it down there? We drove right by Rose Hill Cemetery, so I was talking about that a little bit because I do tours there too. And then she got out of the car in Ravenswood, and nobody else did. And I was like, wasn't there some guy who looked like Pedro? And she was like, no, I wonder why you kept saying you guys.
Stop it.
Then I remembered we had gone by Rose Hill Cemetery. So that's our newest ghost in Chicago now is Rose Hill Pedro. After that, I went home.
Get out. See, I am a hardcore skeptic. I love stories like that, but I have a hard time buying it.
I'm sure it was just I thought the guy was getting in the car and he wasn't. You know, because he was sitting...
Was it late at night?
Behind me. It had been a long time. He would have been sitting behind me, so I wouldn't have been able to see him in the rearview mirror. So I can explain these things away pretty well.
Knowing that you do these ghost tours, do you think people just flat out fuck with you? Like they try to make you believe in things? Like
sometimes,
just set you up?
Oh, sometimes, yeah. They're usually not very good at it, though.
When did you start doing it? And I guess another question is why?
2005, there was an opening, so I took it.
Oh, so it was an established thing.
Yeah, it was an established company. I just got a job with a ghost tour company. But then I realized how many of the stories they had me telling had not been well researched over time.
And that seems to be your thing.
That's kind of the thing.
You dig in and you...
Yeah, you know, go find all the actual data, trace every story back to the source, try to find the stuff that people missed before. And with H.H. Holmes in particular, there was a lot of that. So
I should mention, if you're watching on Facebook Live, first of all, hang on, Dana Lynn, JVO dropping F-bombs makes my day. Fuck yeah. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening to the podcast. I should mention, this is just a fraction of what you'll get on the podcast, on carconcarne.com. This whole long-form conversation, this quality time with Adam, is going to be stretched out and really wonderful listening, and that'll happen next week. But for now, you can watch us eat. And I should point out... You're a handsome dude. Yeah. I mean, you really you dressed for the...
I dressed in my expert costume.
You did? I'm dressed in a Red Sox hoodie, so I'm not a Red Sox hoodie.
Right.
A red White Sox hoodie. All right, so I started doing the ghost tours. Were you into that sort of thing, or did taking the job kind of help you turn that corner?
I always liked that kind of stuff. You know, I always had like all the books about the Loch Ness Monster when I was a kid. And I grew up to be a lot more skeptical than I was when I was 10. I would believe in any monster in any lake you can think of. You know, there was a pond near my house. If you told me there was a plesiosaur in there, I probably would have bought it.
Sure.
But then, you know, it's kind of, I think, good that I got into all that stuff when I was 10. I kind of got it out of my system, you know. I was all into conspiracy theories and stuff when I was 9. So by the time I was 18, you know, I got that stuff out of my system. And, you know, now I'm just kind of stunned seeing adults get into some of this stuff.
What are some of the more interesting ghost stories? I mean, I don't need you to give up the tour
Right.
on the podcast, but what are some of those stories? And we've all heard, I guess, the big ones.
Oh, sure.
What are some of the ones that you love telling, or that people think or say to you, I had no idea, I'd never heard that?
If people like F-bombs, I got just the story for you.
Yes.
Okay, so my first year that I was doing this stuff, they told me we were going to go out and do this ghost investigation up at this old funeral home that was now a tattoo parlor.
Okay.
And I said, well, what are the guys on first? First question is, are they on drugs? Like, oh, yeah, they're definitely on drugs, but you know, it's going to be cool.
That aside,
yeah, that aside, you know, it was cool. You know, they had like a gravestone that they found in the attic was in the fireplace. And it was pretty cool.
That freaked me out.
Yeah, the first guy we talked to was like, oh, yeah, man, I was in the basement one time, and there was this ghost going like, woo.
Because that's what ghosts do.
Yeah, because, you know, that's how they sound on Scooby-Doo anyway. but then the owner of the place was a cat called Tapeworm.
That was his name, Tapeworm.
That's what he went by anyway.
Which, sort of related, but not really. There are times when I overindulge on food where I think, maybe a tapeworm would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the long term...
I might just be an urban legend that they used to, like, sell tapeworm eggs as diet pills.
I've heard that urban legend.
I was taught that in school.
All right, so Tapeworm, the tattoo guy.
Yeah, Tapeworm. He told us about, like, he'd seen the ghost of a guy in a powder blue suit that would watch him while he was tattooing, and a guy in a brown suit walking around now and then. And apparently the family that owned the funeral home for decades before it became a tattoo parlor had been saying it was haunted for years.
Okay.
But what really stood out to me was Tapeworm pointed up at the staircase, and usually I clean this story up a lot, so I'm glad to be able to do it like this today. He pointed up at this, you see them fucking stairs? Twice I've been walking the fuck down them fucking stairs, and I felt like they were trying to push me. Like, push me down the stairs, and that freaks me the fuck out, because everybody knows you can't fight back with these cats. So first time
And Tapeworm's a big dude?
He was a big dude, yeah. So he looked up and said, yeah, so first time it happened, I just went, listen, motherfucker, if I fucking die in this place, it is fucking on. 3 weeks later, Tapeworm died in the place.
Shut up!
Yeah.
In the place?
In the place, yeah.
What's the official...
heart attack.
Wow.
At the age of 30, yeah, the age that I am now.
A really young age.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a great story.
Yeah, if there's ever been a ghost I felt like I really believed in, but, other than it's Tapeworm, man. I'd go into that place after that, feel like someone was like flicking my ear, pulling my hair.
Now, it should be noted since Adam decided to work blue today.
Yeah.
This podcast may not be appropriate for all audiences. I should have mentioned that earlier.
We're already talking about serial killers, right?
So, we're totally going to get into that. You know, I had Herb, who is the owner of Liars Club, in this car, maybe it was last year. And he swears, and he has stories, he swears that Liars Club is haunted. Did you ever hear that?
I used to take tour groups out there quite a bit for a while.
Okay, so what's that story?
Yeah. Well, there's not as many axe murders as they say there have been in the building. Like, you know, one of my tour partners at the time was saying there had been like 8 axe murders in the place or 5 axe murders in the place. There's been 1 axe murder in the place. That's pretty good. There's, you know...
When was axe murdering a thing? Like,
yeah, and who even... the place is on Fullerton Avenue. Why do you need an axe? It's not like there's a lot of forestry to chop down or anything, you know. Or a lot of rails to split.
Exactly.
But, yeah, there was an axe murder there in the 80s. And also there was like a pop bottle bludgeoning in the 50s, I think. It's been a while since I told that story. I'd have to look it up. It
would never happen in the modern day because of the soda tax.
Right.
Who would actually waste... the bottle,
right? You know, or you know, if it was the Iowa and you had the deposit or something like that. No, you know, it was apparently a couple of guys got into an argument over a pair of pants, and these must have been really nice pants,
right? Some fine.
Yeah, one guy would kill for these pants, quite literally, and so yeah, some guy beat the hell out of him with a pop bottle and pushed him out the window or something. So there have been a couple of stories there. As far as the ghosts, I never saw anything. I don't think we ever had anything weird happen other than like just what you can sometimes see in the Liars Club. I mean, you walk into that place, it's like the cantina from Mos Eisley or something.
A little bit. You kind of see the ghosts of the 90s rock scene there, too.
That you do, yeah.
You don't need like a special piece of equipment to
Definitely
register that.
not.
Yeah. All right, so here's the deal. I'm going to let you eat off camera. As a courtesy. It's a courtesy to my guests. I let them finish their meal when other people aren't watching. This whole podcast will be available on carcoandcarne.com next week. Now, we just got into some of the ghost stuff. We're going to talk about grave robbing, and we're going to talk about, really, America's first true supervillain, H.H. Holmes.
Yeah, one of them, yeah.
He was the Dr. Doom.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of. So we're going to get into that on the podcast, because like I said, Adam wrote this incredible book about H.H. Holmes. We're going to talk serial killing and grave robbing, good, wholesome family fun. Carco and Carney next week.
Adam Selzer, how you doing?
There we go. Thank you for watching Facebook Live.